Hello, dear friends and lovers of peaceful nights. Welcome to my channel, Story for Sleep. Here, you'll find cozy and relaxing stories that will help you unwind from the day's hustle and drift into the world of dreams. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and share it with friends who also need a good night's sleep. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please write your city or country in the comments. And of course, feel free to share your thoughts and feelings about the story. Hygiene is an important part of human life, but its understanding and practice have changed dramatically in different eras and countries. Today, we'll embark on a journey through time and space to learn how cleanliness was maintained in medieval Spain, England, France, and even distant Japan.
The Moorish legacy in medieval Spain is perhaps best exemplified by the hammams, those public bathhouses that served as vibrant centers of public life and hygiene. Close your eyes and imagine these spaces. More than just places to get clean, they were social hubs, architectural marvels, and testaments to the advanced understanding of sanitation that the Moors brought to the Iberian Peninsula. Picture intricate tilework depicting geometric patterns and stylized floral designs, the gentle sound of fountains cascading into marble basins, and the mingling scents of aromatic oils, a blend of rosewater, sandalwood, and citrus. A far cry from the often grim realities of medieval life elsewhere in Europe. These hammams were meticulously designed, often featuring a series of rooms with varying temperatures, each serving a specific purpose. You begin in the Beit al-Barid, the cool room, to acclimate your body to the environment. Here, you might sip a refreshing drink of sweetened water or engage in quiet conversation with friends. Then you'd move to the Beit al-Wastani, the warm room, where the air was humid and the temperature was just right to loosen your muscles and prepare your skin for deeper cleansing. Finally, you'd immerse yourself in the heat of the Beit al-Sakin, the main bathing chamber, where the air shimmered with steam and the walls radiated warmth. Attendants, often skilled in the art of massage and exfoliation, would offer their services. They'd use rough cloths made of goat hair or camel wool to scrub away dead skin cells, leaving your skin feeling smooth and refreshed. They'd anoint you with fragrant oils, carefully chosen for their therapeutic properties. Perhaps you'd choose rose oil for its calming effects, or lavender for its ability to soothe sore muscles. It was a holistic experience, designed to cleanse not just the body, but also the spirit. But the hammams were more than just places for personal hygiene. They were also important economic centers. They provided employment for a wide range of people, from architects and builders to attendants and suppliers of water, oils, and other goods. They also generated revenue for the local government, which often taxed the bathhouses. However, as the Christian Reconquista gained momentum, attitudes towards these practices began to shift. The Christian perspective on the body and cleanliness differed significantly from that of the Moors. Where the Moors saw bathing as a way to maintain health, connect with their community, and honor their faith, the Church, with its emphasis on spiritual purity over physical comfort, often viewed these bathhouses with suspicion. They were seen as potential breeding grounds for moral laxity, places where men and women might mingle inappropriately, and where the focus on the body could distract from the pursuit of spiritual perfection. Some religious leaders even preached against the hammams, warning that they were dens of sin and temptation. And indeed, the frequent outbreaks of devastating epidemics, particularly the plague, had a profound impact on hygiene practices across the region. In a time before germ theory, when the causes of disease were poorly understood, fear of contagion led to the closure of many public spaces, including the beloved hammams. People sought to avoid crowded areas, believing that disease was somehow spread through the air or by physical contact. The bathhouses, once symbols of cleanliness and community, became associated with sickness and death, and many were abandoned or repurposed. Yet, despite these dramatic changes, the Moorish heritage and hygiene wasn't entirely erased. Elements of their practices, such as the use of aromatic oils and herbs for personal grooming and medicinal purposes, continued to be valued, even among the Christian population. And the architectural innovations like the sophisticated aqueduct systems that supplied clean water to cities like Córdoba and Seville remained essential to the functioning of urban life. These systems, originally designed to feed the hammams and ensure a constant supply of fresh water, were too valuable to abandon even as the bathhouses themselves fell into disuse. In some cases, Christian rulers even adapted and maintained these systems, recognizing their importance for public health. We see glimpses of this legacy today in places like the Alhambra in Granada, where remnants of the royal hammam still stand as a testament to a time when cleanliness was not just a necessity but a cultural ideal. Though the bathhouse is no longer in operation, its intricate design and beautiful decorations offer a tantalizing glimpse into a world where hygiene was elevated to an art form. And even after the Reconquista, some of these bathhouses continued to operate, albeit under new management and with a different cultural context, serving as a reminder of the enduring influence of Moorish traditions. They became places where Christians and Muslims could still come together, albeit under different circumstances, to share in the simple pleasure of a warm bath. In conclusion, the story of hygiene in medieval Spain during the Reconquista is a complex and fascinating one, a tapestry woven from the threads of different cultures, beliefs, and historical events. It's a reminder that even something as basic as cleanliness is deeply intertwined with the social, religious, economic, and historical forces that shape our world. It's a story of cultural exchange, religious conflict, and the enduring power of tradition, all reflected in the simple act of washing. In stark contrast to the elaborate and sensual bathing rituals of Moorish Spain, hygiene in medieval England was a far more modest and often challenging affair, limited to simple procedures and guided by a very different set of beliefs. Forget the fragrant steam and intricate tile work. For most people in medieval England, bathing was an infrequent event, perhaps occurring only a few times a year, often dictated by the changing seasons or a special occasion. The prevailing wisdom passed down through generations held that frequent washing could actually weaken the body, stripping away its natural defenses, a protective layer of good dirt as some believed, and making it more vulnerable to illness. Imagine the sights, sounds, and smells of a typical medieval village: narrow, unpaved streets, often little more than muddy tracks, lined with closely packed timber-framed houses, their thatched roofs teeming with birds and rodents. Waste disposal was rudimentary at best, with refuse, everything from kitchen scraps to human excrement, often tossed directly into the streets or into the nearest river. The air would have been thick with the smells of wood smoke from cooking fires, the pungent odor of animal waste, and the ever-present aroma of unwashed bodies. In this environment, where clean water was a precious commodity and sanitation was virtually non-existent, personal cleanliness was a constant and often losing battle. While public bathhouses, known as stews, did exist in some of the larger towns and cities, like London and York, they were not nearly as widespread, as luxurious, or as socially accepted as the hammams of Spain. These English bathhouses were often simple and rather grim affairs, consisting of a large tub or pool of water heated by a fire, often shared by multiple bathers. They were typically open to both men and women, although some establishments may have had separate bathing times or even separate facilities for each sex. However, these stews were often associated with prostitution and other illicit activities, further discouraging respectable citizens from frequenting them. And even these modest bathhouses began to decline in popularity during the later Middle Ages, largely due to the recurring outbreaks of devastating epidemics, such as the Black Death or bubonic plague. As the plague swept across Europe, killing millions and decimating entire communities, people became increasingly fearful of public spaces, believing that they were breeding grounds for disease. The bathhouses, with their shared water, close proximity of bathers, and often questionable hygiene practices, were seen as particularly risky, and many were forced to close their doors, never to reopen. So, what did people do to stay clean, or at least to feel clean, in medieval England? For those who could afford it, washing the hands and face was a daily ritual, often performed with a basin of water drawn from a well or rainwater cistern and a coarse linen cloth. The wealthy might also have a small wooden tub or barrel in their home for occasional bathing, although this was still a relatively rare and elaborate undertaking, requiring servants to haul water and heat it over a fire. Clothing played an important role in maintaining a sense of cleanliness, or at least in masking unpleasant odors. Linen undergarments, such as shirts and chemises, were worn next to the skin, and these were changed and washed more frequently than outer garments made of wool or other heavier fabrics. The wealthy could afford to have their clothes cleaned by professional launderers who used lye soap and vigorous scrubbing to remove dirt and stains, while the poor had to rely on their own efforts, often washing their clothes in a nearby stream or river. Aromatic herbs and spices were also used to mask unpleasant body odors, a practice that was particularly important in a society where bathing was infrequent. People carried small pouches, known as pomanders, filled with lavender, rosemary, cloves, or other fragrant herbs, and they might also sprinkle these herbs on their clothing, bedding, or even on the floors of their homes. Perfumes made from imported ingredients like musk, ambergris, and exotic spices were a luxury reserved for the very wealthy, a way to signal their status and distinguish themselves from the common folk. Personal grooming was also considered important, although the standards varied depending on social class and gender. Men typically wore their hair short, often cropped close to the head, and they shaved their faces regularly with a sharp knife or razor, a practice that required skill and a steady hand. Women wore their hair long, often braided or styled in elaborate headdresses, adorned with ribbons, jewels, or veils. Combs made of bone, wood, or ivory were used to keep the hair clean and free of tangles, and mirrors made of polished metal were used to check one's appearance. But perhaps the most important aspect of hygiene in medieval England was the pervasive belief that cleanliness was not just a matter of physical health, but also of spiritual purity. The Church taught that the body was a temple of the Holy Spirit and that it should be kept clean and free from defilement both inside and out. This belief motivated people to do what they could to maintain personal cleanliness, even in the face of challenging circumstances, reminding them that even the simplest act of washing could be a form of prayer. In conclusion, hygiene in medieval England was a far cry from the elaborate and sensual bathing rituals of Moorish Spain. It was a more modest, challenging, and often rather unpleasant affair, shaped by a complex interplay of practical considerations, religious beliefs, and the ever-present threat of disease. Yet, even in this environment where clean water was scarce and sanitation was rudimentary, people found ways to maintain a sense of cleanliness, to care for their bodies, and to express their faith, reminding us that the desire for hygiene is a fundamental human need, regardless of the time or place. Now let's journey south, leaving behind the often muddy lanes of England and crossing the Channel to the more refined and perfumed lands of France. Forget the simple scrubbing and the fear of water. In contrast to England's more pragmatic approach, France in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance was renowned throughout Europe for its étuves, those public bathhouses and steam rooms that were far more than just places to scrub away dirt. They were vibrant social hubs, centers of relaxation, stages for conducting business, and even places for clandestine meetings, all infused with a distinctly French appreciation for both bodily and spiritual well-being. Imagine arriving in the bustling city of Paris, perhaps near the Place de Grève, where the sounds of street vendors and the clip-clop of horses' hooves mingle with the enticing aroma of roasting chestnuts. Or picture yourself stepping into one of the elegant towns dotting the Loire Valley, where the air is filled with the scent of blooming lavender and the gentle murmur of the river. Here, unlike the often grim conditions of English villages, you would find grand public bathhouses, the étuves, their entrances often marked by ornate signs depicting bathing nymphs and Roman gods, and the enticing aroma of fragrant herbs wafting out into the street. These weren't just places to get clean, they were destinations offering a range of services and experiences designed to pamper the body, soothe the soul, and elevate the senses. Unlike the simpler bathhouses of England, the French étuves were often elaborate architectural affairs reflecting the wealth and sophistication of French society. They featured multiple rooms, each carefully designed to create a specific atmosphere and cater to different needs. You might begin in the apoditerium, a cool and airy room where you could disrobe and store your belongings in a secure locker. Then, you'd move to the tepidarium, a warm and inviting room where you could relax and socialize with other patrons, perhaps sipping a glass of wine or enjoying a light snack. Finally, you'd enter the caldarium, the heart of the étuve, where the air was thick with steam and the temperature soared, creating a truly immersive and transformative experience. Within the caldarium, you could choose from a variety of bathing options, each designed to cleanse and invigorate the body. You might soak in a large tub filled with hot water infused with fragrant herbs like lavender, rosemary, and thyme, known for their therapeutic properties. Or you might recline on a heated bench, allowing the steam to penetrate your pores and cleanse your skin from the inside out. Skilled attendants, often women known as baigneuses, would offer massages using fragrant oils and gentle pressure to ease sore muscles, improve circulation, and promote relaxation. Some étuves even offered specialized treatments such as bloodletting, cupping, and leeching performed by trained physicians or barber surgeons. The French, unlike their English counterparts, placed a strong emphasis on both bodily and spiritual purity, believing that cleanliness of the body contributed directly to the cleanliness of the soul. They saw bathing as a way to not only remove dirt and grime, but also to purify the spirit, promote good health, enhance one's overall sense of well-being, and even improve one's social standing. This belief was deeply ingrained in French culture, and it was reflected in the design and operation of the étuves, which were often decorated with religious symbols such as images of saints, biblical scenes, and allegorical representations of virtues like temperance and chastity. However, even in France, the golden age of public bathhouses began to fade with the devastating spread of the plague and other infectious diseases. As the Black Death swept across Europe, killing millions and leaving a trail of fear and devastation in its wake, people became increasingly wary of public spaces, believing that they were breeding grounds for contagion. The étuves, with their shared water, close proximity of bathers, and often questionable hygiene practices, were seen as particularly risky, and many were forced to close their doors, never to reopen. The once thriving bathhouse culture of France was dealt a blow from which it would never fully recover, leaving a void in the social and economic fabric of French society. But even as the public étuves declined, the French continued to value cleanliness and hygiene, adapting their practices to suit the changing circumstances and maintaining their reputation as one of the most refined and sophisticated cultures in Europe. In private homes, particularly among the wealthy, the practice of dry bathing became increasingly popular, offering a way to maintain personal cleanliness without the perceived risks of immersion. This involved using a clean linen cloth, often dampened with water or fragrant vinegar, to wipe down the body, removing dirt and sweat and leaving the skin feeling refreshed and invigorated. Clothing also played a crucial role in maintaining hygiene and projecting an image of cleanliness and sophistication. The French were renowned throughout Europe for their elegant and elaborate clothing, and they took great care to keep their garments clean, well-maintained, and impeccably styled. Linen undergarments, such as shirts, chemises, and drawers, were worn next to the skin, and these were changed and washed frequently, often using lye soap and vigorous scrubbing. Outer garments, made of luxurious materials like wool, silk, and velvet, were often brushed and aired out to remove dirt and odors, and they were occasionally sent to professional dyers and cleaners for more thorough treatment, using techniques that had been perfected over centuries. Perfumes and cosmetics were also widely used, not just to enhance beauty and attract attention, but also to mask unpleasant body odors, create a more pleasing personal aroma, and project an image of wealth, status, and sophistication. The French were masters of the art of perfumery, using a variety of fragrant ingredients, such as flowers, herbs, spices, and animal products, to create complex and alluring scents that were highly prized throughout Europe. These perfumes were used to scent clothing, hair, and skin, creating a fragrant aura that was considered essential for social acceptance, professional success, and romantic allure. In conclusion, hygiene in medieval and Renaissance France was a complex and multifaceted affair shaped by a combination of cultural values, religious beliefs, economic realities, and the ever-present threat of disease. While public bathhouses, the étuves, played a vital role in promoting cleanliness, social interaction, and a sense of well-being, they eventually declined in popularity due to the devastating impact of the plague. However, the French continued to value hygiene, adapting their practices to suit the changing circumstances and maintaining a strong emphasis on both bodily and spiritual purity, reminding us that the pursuit of cleanliness is a constant and evolving human endeavor deeply intertwined with the social, cultural, and historical forces that shape our world. Finally, let's journey far to the east, leaving behind the familiar landscapes of Europe and venturing to the distant and enigmatic islands of Japan. In stark contrast to the often challenging hygiene practices of medieval Europe, Japan during the Kamakura and Muromachi periods, roughly the 12th to 16th centuries, held cleanliness and order as fundamental values. Deeply ingrained in their culture and daily life, and connect with the divine and prepare oneself for important events or decisions. The Japanese believed that the mineral-rich waters of the onsens could cure a variety of ailments, from skin conditions and muscle aches to digestive problems and nervous disorders. And they often traveled great distances to soak in specific hot springs known for their particular healing properties. They also saw bathing as a way to connect with nature, to appreciate the beauty of the surrounding landscape, and to find inner peace and tranquility, escaping the pressures and anxieties of daily life. Before entering the bathing area, it was customary to thoroughly wash oneself with soap and water, using small wooden buckets to rinse off, a practice that was not just a matter of hygiene, but also a sign of respect for the other bathers and for the sacredness of the water. This preliminary washing was often performed while sitting on a small stool, allowing bathers to carefully cleanse every part of their body before entering the communal bath, ensuring that the water remained clean and pure for everyone to enjoy. Within the onsen or sento, there was often an unspoken social hierarchy, with certain areas reserved for more prominent or wealthy patrons. Samurai warriors, for example, might have their own designated bathing areas, separate from those used by commoners. Wealthy merchants might pay extra for private rooms or special treatments. And Buddhist monks, revered for their spiritual purity, were often given preferential treatment. This social stratification, while subtle, reflected the broader social dynamics of Japanese society during the Kamakura and Muromachi periods. Clothing, too, was meticulously maintained, reflecting the Japanese emphasis on cleanliness, order, respect for tradition, and social harmony. The Japanese wore simple but elegant garments made of natural fibers like cotton, silk, and hemp, each carefully chosen for its comfort, durability, aesthetic appeal, and symbolic meaning. These garments were designed to be practical and functional, allowing for ease of movement and breathability, and they were often adorned with intricate patterns and designs that reflected the wearer's social status, occupation, personal taste, and family crest. The garments were washed frequently using specialized soaps and detergents made from plant-based ingredients, such as rice bran, ash, and seaweed, and they were carefully ironed to remove wrinkles and creases, a task that was often performed by skilled artisans who specialized in the art of fabric care. The Japanese also developed a sophisticated system of laundry, with specialized techniques for cleaning different types of fabrics, removing different types of stains, preserving the delicate colors and textures of their clothing, and even imparting a subtle fragrance to the garments. The process of washing clothes was a ritual in itself. Women would gather at the local river or well, using large wooden tubs and washboards to scrub the garments clean. They would then rinse the clothes thoroughly, using fresh water, and hang them to dry in the sun, taking care to arrange them in a way that was both aesthetically pleasing and efficient. The dried clothes were then carefully folded and stored, ready to be worn again. Cleanliness extended beyond the personal realm to encompass the entire environment, reflecting the Japanese belief that a clean and orderly environment promoted harmony, peace, prosperity, spiritual enlightenment, and social well-being. The Japanese took great pride in keeping their homes, gardens, and streets clean and orderly, viewing it as a reflection of their own inner state, a way to honor the gods and ancestors, and a contribution to the overall harmony of the community. They swept their homes daily, raked their gardens meticulously, and worked together to keep their communities free of litter and debris, a practice that was often enforced by strict social norms, community pressure, and even legal regulations. Even the smallest details were carefully attended to, from the precise arrangement of flowers in a vase to the deliberate placement of stones in a garden, each element contributing to the overall sense of harmony and balance, and reflecting the Japanese aesthetic principles of wabi-sabi, which emphasizes the beauty of imperfection, impermanence, and simplicity. For example, consider the meticulous cleaning rituals performed in Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines. Monks and priests would spend hours each day cleaning the temple grounds, sweeping the floors, polishing the altars, and tending to the gardens. This was not just a matter of practicality, it was also a form of spiritual practice, a way to purify the mind, cultivate mindfulness, and connect with the divine. Or consider the elaborate tea ceremony, shinoyu, which is a highly ritualized and aestheticized practice that emphasizes the importance of cleanliness, order, and respect. The tea room is meticulously cleaned before each ceremony, and every object used in the ceremony is carefully chosen and handled with reverence. The tea itself is prepared with great care, using only the finest ingredients and the purest water. And the guests are expected to conduct themselves with grace, humility, and respect. This emphasis on cleanliness was not just a matter of aesthetics or practicality, it was also deeply intertwined with Japanese religious beliefs, particularly Shinto and Buddhism, which both emphasized the importance of purity, mindfulness, respect for the natural world, and the pursuit of enlightenment. Shinto, the indigenous religion of Japan, emphasizes the importance of purity and the avoidance of defilement, viewing cleanliness as a way to honor the kami, or spirits, that inhabit all things. Buddhism, which was introduced to Japan from China in the 6th century, teaches the importance of mindfulness, compassion, and the cultivation of inner peace, all of which are facilitated by a clean and orderly environment. Both of these religions contributed to the Japanese emphasis on cleanliness and order, viewing it as a way to purify the body, cleanse the mind, connect with the divine, and achieve enlightenment. One popular anecdote tells of a visiting European merchant who was shocked by the cleanliness of a Japanese town. He remarked that even the poorest homes were spotless and that there was no sign of litter or waste anywhere. He asked a local why the Japanese were so obsessed with cleanliness, and the local replied, "We believe that cleanliness is next to godliness. It is a way to show our respect for the world around us and to create a more harmonious and peaceful society." In conclusion, hygiene in Japan during the Kamakura and Muromachi periods was a far cry from the often challenging and sometimes even unpleasant practices of medieval Europe. It was a deeply ingrained cultural value, a reflection of religious beliefs, an integral part of the economic system, a key component of daily life, and a path to spiritual enlightenment, shaping everything from the design of their bathhouses to the care they took with their clothing and the emphasis they placed on environmental cleanliness. The Japanese saw cleanliness as essential for both physical and spiritual well-being, and they developed a range of practices to maintain it, creating a society that was renowned throughout the world for its beauty, order, harmony, spiritual depth, and unwavering commitment to the pursuit of purity. Now let's embark on a journey to the vibrant and diverse land of India, a land of ancient civilizations, profound spiritual traditions, a complex tapestry of cultures, and a rigid social hierarchy that has profoundly shaped its approach to hygiene for millennia. Unlike the practices we've explored in Europe and Japan, hygiene in India has been deeply intertwined with religious beliefs, social structures, traditional medicine, the caste system, and the very fabric of daily life, reflecting a complex interplay of factors that have shaped its evolution over centuries and created stark disparities in access to basic sanitation and hygiene resources. Imagine the bustling cities along the Indus River Valley where the air is thick with the scent of spices, the sounds of commerce, and the cries of street vendors. The serene ashrams nestled in the foothills of the Himalayas where the air is crisp and clean, the silence is broken only by the chanting of mantras, and the scent of incense fills the air, and the colorful villages scattered across the plains, where life revolves around the rhythms of nature, the cycles of the seasons, and the traditions passed down through generations. But also imagine the squalor and poverty that existed alongside this beauty, particularly for those relegated to the lowest rungs of the social ladder. Here, in a land of stark contrasts and profound spirituality, you would find a society where cleanliness was not just a matter of personal hygiene, but a fundamental aspect of religious practice, social order, overall well-being, and one's place within the intricate social hierarchy of the caste system, a reflection of one's inner state, one's social standing, and one's connection to the divine. The Japanese believed that purity was not just a matter of aesthetics or practicality, but a moral imperative, a way to honor the gods, respect one's ancestors, contribute to the harmony of the community, and maintain the delicate balance of the cosmos. In India, this belief was often twisted to justify the oppression and marginalization of those deemed impure by birth. From the earliest days of the Indus Valley Civilization, circa 3300 to 1700 BCE, the people of India demonstrated a remarkable understanding of sanitation and hygiene, far surpassing that of many contemporary civilizations and suggesting a sophisticated awareness of the link between cleanliness and public health. The cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, meticulously planned and expertly constructed, boasted sophisticated drainage systems that channeled waste away from residential areas, public baths where citizens could cleanse themselves, and well-planned residential areas with private bathing facilities, a testament to their advanced knowledge of engineering, urban planning, and public health. This early emphasis on cleanliness suggests a deep-seated awareness of the importance of hygiene for preventing disease, promoting overall well-being, and maintaining the social order. But it's important to note that access to these amenities was likely not equal, with the elite classes enjoying a far higher standard of living than the common laborers. As Hinduism evolved over the centuries, cleanliness became increasingly intertwined with religious beliefs and practices, shaping the daily lives of millions of people and reinforcing the social hierarchy of the caste system. The concept of purity, both internal and external, is central to Hindu philosophy, permeating every aspect of life, from diet and dress to social interactions and religious rituals. Ritual purification, known as shaucha, is considered essential for spiritual progress, a way to cleanse the body, mind, and environment to remove impurities and prepare oneself for worship, meditation, and other spiritual practices. This involves not only physical cleansing, but also mental and emotional purification, achieved through practices such as meditation, prayer, selfless service, and adherence to the strict rules and regulations of the caste system. However, this emphasis on purity often served to justify the discrimination and segregation of those deemed untouchable or outcast, who were often relegated to the most menial and degrading tasks, such as cleaning latrines and handling dead bodies, and were denied access to basic sanitation and hygiene resources. The Manusmriti, an ancient Hindu legal text that outlines the rules and regulations for Hindu society, provides detailed instructions for personal hygiene, including specific guidelines for bathing, washing clothes, disposing of waste, and maintaining the cleanliness of one's home and surroundings. These rules were designed to maintain both physical and spiritual purity, and they were strictly followed by devout Hindus, who believed that adherence to these guidelines was essential for maintaining their social standing, their spiritual well-being, their connection to the divine, and their place within the rigid framework of the caste system. But for those at the bottom of the social hierarchy, these rules were often impossible to follow due to their lack of access to clean water, sanitation facilities, and other basic resources. Bathing in rivers, particularly the Ganges, is considered a sacred act in Hinduism, a pilgrimage that millions of Hindus undertake each year, seeking spiritual purification and blessings. The Ganges is believed to have the power to cleanse sins, purify the soul, and grant liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Pilgrims travel from all corners of India to bathe in the Ganges, immersing themselves in its waters and offering prayers to the river goddess Ganga. The banks of the Ganges are lined with temples, ghats, bathing steps, and cremation grounds, making it a focal point of Hindu religious life. However, even this sacred act was often subject to the rules of the caste system, with members of the higher castes enjoying preferential access to the best bathing spots and the most auspicious times for bathing, while members of the lower castes were often relegated to the less desirable areas and times. In addition to bathing, other forms of personal hygiene were also emphasized in ancient India, reflecting a deep understanding of the importance of cleanliness for preventing disease and promoting overall health. The use of natural substances like turmeric, sandalwood, neem, and aloe vera for skincare was common, passed down through generations, and in conclusion, our journey through the diverse landscapes of medieval Spain, England, France, Japan, and India has revealed that hygiene is far more than just a matter of personal cleanliness. It's a cultural mirror reflecting a society's values, beliefs, and social structures. From the fragrant steam of the Moorish-influenced hammams in Spain to the simple linen cloths used in medieval England, each culture developed unique practices shaped by its environment, religion, and social norms. France's étuves showcased the blend of social interaction and personal cleansing, while Japan's onsens and sentos embodied a deep spiritual connection to nature. In India, the rigid caste system profoundly impacted access to hygiene, highlighting the stark inequalities that can exist within a society. While the specific methods vary dramatically, a common thread unites these diverse approaches: the fundamental human desire to maintain well-being, whether physical, spiritual, or social. These historical practices, though often vastly different from our modern understanding of hygiene, laid the groundwork for many of the customs and beliefs that persist today. They remind us that hygiene is not simply a matter of science and sanitation, but also a deeply cultural and personal practice shaped by centuries of tradition and innovation. The legacies of these historical approaches continue to influence our attitudes towards cleanliness, our understanding of health, and our interactions with the world around us, demonstrating the enduring power of culture to shape even the most basic aspects of human life.